So I just finished today's newsletter, and you get the daily newsletter, right? I'll link to it in the comments below. But I was talking about why service after the sale is not a benefit. It's not a good thing. It's not effective for you to use as a tip, as a bonus, as a feature when you're trying to make a sale. And really, neither is family owned and operated or locally owned and operated. But the thing with service after the sale, great service after the sale, is that it is only found out. The customer will only know if it's true after they commit, after you have their money, after they've made their decision and they're stuck with you. Okay, but whoever says, yeah, we have horrible service after the sale, I'll talk to prospects and they'll say, well, do you have any references? And I'll ask them, do you want the good ones? It's a silly question. Like, what do you think I'm going to send you? They're already everywhere. They're on my LinkedIn. They're on my homepage. I've got a /fans page on my website. I've got 60 minutes compiled on YouTube of testimonials. I mean, they're everywhere. So you should be putting them out there anyway, right? But it's like, you want references. Okay, I kind of get it if it's some super deep, hard, complex thing or whatever, but you're gonna only give good references. Okay, but let's focus on service after the sale. It's just not a benefit. Okay, so you have to understand things from the perspective of the prospect. The old David Ogilvy or Robert Collier. You must enter the conversation going on in the mind of the prospect. What are they thinking? How important is service after the sale? Okay, you've got to get your prospects opening up. The title of today's email was "You Don't Need a Good Memory," and the caveat to that is if you tell the truth. Okay, and so if you aren't number one in your industry, and maybe you truly do have the best service, okay, but you're not number one in your industry for whatever reason. You're number two. There was an old, I don't know if it was Enterprise or National Rental Cars, one of Avis, I don't know. It was one of them. They said, we're number two, so we try harder. So they owned the fact that they weren't number one. And, people that are in the industry, business people that travel a lot, they know who's number one, who's number two, who's number three. And they may go with number one because it works and the company's paying for it, so who cares? For the longest time, I had a deal with Hertz because I worked at a startup years ago, and we got great rates through them, and that stayed on my profile. It was literally until COVID. I mean, so from 2000 until 2020, 2021, I used Hertz, and then they just started sucking. So I stopped. But people know who's number one, okay? And so they will choose you even if you're not number one, if they see you as honest, reliable, dependable, helpful, sincere, okay? So you can still win that deal, okay? But you've got to get the truth out of your prospects. And a lot of times, most of the time, I would say your prospects don't know what the truth is. If they did, they would have already addressed it. So if you are in a negotiation, you're involved in some kind of RFP, RFQ, the prospect has probably begun recognizing what's going on. Okay, they're following procedure. They're a big institution, big company, and they got to get quotes and bids and blah, blah, blah. Okay, but do they really, truly understand the issue at hand, how big it is, how important it is, the true ramifications, how far and deep and wide and long are these tentacles that are shooting out and choking the company, okay, because it's not addressed yet. So that means you've got time, right? A little bit of time to ask better questions. Our job in sales is to ask questions the prospects cannot answer. That shows that we're coming at this at a different angle. It shows we've got at least enough insight to ask a good question. Okay, because we always know that what we don't know is probably the worst thing that could happen to us, right? What is going to pop up? What are the things we don't even know that we can't even prepare for? That's going to pop up and ambush us because we didn't know. So our job is to ask questions that the prospect can't answer. That's when I know I'm on the right track. When the prospect goes, that's a good question. Wow, never really thought about that. I'm gonna have to get back to you on that. We haven't really thought about that. Okay, doesn't matter. I can point to all my degrees and citizen of the year and all. You don't care. You don't care. You don't care how many certifications I have. Okay, I can tell you all about the swords and jiu-jitsu and all that stuff. You don't care. Well, maybe you care a little bit if you like one of my schools, if you like jiu-jitsu, but that's a small piece of the pie. You want to know, how much do I know? You want to know what kind of insight do I bring? Because if I don't know any more than you do, then what are you getting when you buy from me? Okay, we pay for things, we buy things so we can alleviate a pain, scratch an itch, okay, accelerate our growth, slash costs, increase savings, okay? So what are you bringing to the table? That's why I say service after the sale. Now, again, if you are truly known for it and you've got more testimonials than you can shake a stick at, okay, you can probably leverage that to a degree. But the customer, the prospect, probably already knows that. Okay. But again, just if you say it, it rings hollow. It's kind of like when I hear somebody say, can I be frank with you? Can I be honest with you? Or, oh, you can trust me. I'm a God-fearing man. When somebody tells me that, I grab my wallet and my watch and I lock them away in a safe and get my gun out and say, yeah, just go stand by the door, fool. I've been probably the worst I've been screwed over is by people that start out with that or throw that in somewhere. Okay. So figure out what else you can do, what else you can say, what else you can ask beyond great service after the sale. Okay. It's just not enough. So, I go over that in my inner circle. I go over that in my starter pack. I'll link to that. That's a brand new. I've taken a lot of my assets, my tools, my book, my overcoming objections, flashcards. I've always had them digitized, but I threw them into a bundle, super affordable. That'll get you well on your way. I hate overcoming objections, but it's nice to have the objections flashcard. One is you will get them sometimes, so it's nice to know how to handle them. But the wisest use of those is to think through how those come up and then map out and plan and create assets that negate, that take away those objections before they ever come up. That's true selling. Okay. My goal is to have the prospect ask me, how do we begin? What are the next steps? How do we get started? That's how I know I did it right. Yeah, there's a lot of sales gurus. They teach all this cool stuff and pacing and mirroring and pausing and deep breaths and whatever. It's like, A, that's harder to learn than it seems. Okay. B, in a B2B sale, in a high ticket sale, a complex sale dealing with multiple buyers over multiple meetings, that stuff doesn't cut it. Okay. I didn't future pace or NLP or hypnotize, 7 or 8 Google engineers, to sell $1 million hardware, software configuration. Shit, that was way back in 2010. I can't believe it's been that long. Sold hundreds of thousands to Sprint when they were still Sprint out in Kansas City. And that was 2003, 2004. $635,000 in training to Dell in 2007. That wasn't, well, what do you mean by that? Don't fall for these guys. Okay? Don't fall for them. Since 2008, I've sold software as a service, right? CRMs, marketing automation, email tools. Now, as a neutral third party, as neutral as a certified partner could be, right? I am licensed or certified in several different platforms. I'm an affiliate of a lot of different ones. I just help people find what's best for them. Now, I can say about these other companies who's first, second, and third with service after the sale. Okay, because I'm not talking about myself. They can see my certifications. They can see that I've been associated with these companies since 2008, since 2014. Okay, they can see I've got a history, that I have sold and supported people on all these different platforms. So now my recommendation, my opinion, my insight carries more weight because I'm not talking about myself. Okay, so now in that case, that can help because some are truly better. Okay, but I'm a neutral third party in that regard. Okay, so get you some tools, slow it down, ask good questions of your prospects. Stop selling so hard. Seek to serve. Be curious, right? I wrote the new ABCs of selling. That was I don't know, a week or so ago. That was in the newsletter, my daily email. I wrote that years ago, but I updated it for the letter because the new ABCs of selling are no longer always be closing, right? It's always be curious. It's always be concise. Always be courteous, and a lot of others. Okay, but it's not always be closing. That doesn't cut it. You know what? And ask me. I don't know how many links I can put in here, but if you want one of my challenge coins, let me know. I've got a link for that. I give these to my clients, but it talks about, in sales we trust. It's an old picture, but learn to open relationships instead of closing sales to grow. The old school hard closing, those days are gone. Right? And so is, we have great service after the sale. That's gone too. All right? So catch up with modern times. And what that means is be more human in this digital, smartphone, high-speed internet age. Whoever can master the human-to-human sale moving forward is going to win. I guarantee. Now go sell something.